everybody, and welcome back to another Pokemon Challenge video. Last time, I asked the question, could I beat Pokemon Shield only using a single Morpeko in battle? And of course, as they always are, was a ton of fun to make, so I highly recommend checking it out when you're done watching this video. This week, we're going back to the Galar region for one more time, for at least a little while, and doing the most difficult challenge I have attempted on the channel thus far. This one may actually, for once, be impossible. With Pokemon Home being released recently, I'm sure a lot of you guys have thought to yourselves, could you beat Pokemon Sword and Shield with only a single Meltan? And today, I'm gonna attempt to answer that question, so you don't have to, because it's no small feat. As always, guys, it means the world to me if you click the like button really quick if you find yourself enjoying this video at any point, and if you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell so you can be notified of all future uploads for this channel as a whole, and see more challenge videos just like this one every single week. A lot of you guys that watch these videos aren't subscribed according to YouTube, so it would really help the channel out a ton, and I love seeing a new face join the channel each and every time I upload a new video. And of course, leaving a nice comment like this one goes a long way too. I love interacting with you all, so thanks so much, Mr. Pack. I'm glad you're enjoying the content. With that being said, can I beat Pokemon Sword only using a single Meltan without any items in battle? Let's jump right in and find out. Meltan is a really unique Pokemon. It's a Steel-type Hex-Nut Pokemon and can only be obtained in Pokemon Go. And it's also a mythical. But don't let that fool you. Meltan is horrendous in every shape and form aside from cuteness. It cannot be evolved in any game outside of Pokemon Go, so once we start with Meltan, we have to finish with Meltan. Meltan has a base stat total of 300, which is the same as Pokemon like Pikachu and all first form pseudo-legendaries aside from Dreepy. And those stats are really horrible all across the board, except for okay-ish attack and defense. The problem is, you likely won't be using that attack stat. See, I like to call Meltan quite similar to a Magikarp. Well, yeah, that's a bit harsh, but let's just take a look at those moves so you can see for yourself. I can read them all quite quickly. That's how little Meltan can learn. There are almost no moves for any strategizing. The only redeeming move Meltan gets is Substitute. This, coupled with Acid Armor or Iron Defense, can be a great way of getting past physical attackers. But there is nothing to help us to get around special attackers. The only physical moves Meltan learns are Headbutt, Facade, and Gyro Ball, meaning we'll be relying on that 55 special attack with moves like Flash Cannon and Thunderbolt the whole game. You're probably just thinking, alright, we'll have to overlevel Meltan and brute force our way through fights. You see, this is where I say, well, yes, but no. Meltan is unobtainable in Pokemon Sword and Shield, or any game for that matter. Therefore, I have to trade a Meltan through Home for the run. This means the entire game, until we defeat Rahan, we will have to deal with disobedience if we are to overlevel, which with a Pokemon like Meltan is just flat out of the question. Because of this, we're practically playing with a level limit. We have to defeat Milo before 20, Nessa before 30, Kabu before 40, Bee before 50, Opal before 60, Gordy before 70, Piers before 80, and Rahan before 90. With only a single Meltan. Yeah, we're really in for a rough time. You may be wondering, why Pokemon Sword? Surely Alistair would be easier. Well, that's exactly why I chose Pokemon Sword. Not only are we going to do this, but we're going to attempt to do it in the most difficult way possible. So please click the like button and subscribe for my pain. It is much appreciated. Anyways, guys, for the rules of this challenge, I am of course not allowed to use any items in battle. Held items and Pokeballs are also fair game as always. The Meltan I start with is the only Pokemon I'm allowed to use in battle. There are required double battles in the game, but for those I will have a second Meltan tag along. That Meltan is not allowed to do anything, so during its turn I'll use a Revive from my bag, and since it's still alive, the Revive won't work and it won't be consumed, resulting in the use of no items and wasting the illegal Meltan's turn. Meltan gets the move Toxic through TM, however only in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. The Meltan I'll be using will be starting with Toxic. On top of that, almost every move Meltan will need to even stand a chance comes through the use of TR. To save myself what is potentially hours of Watt farming, the Meltan I'll be using will be starting with every TR as a forgotten move, being taught from my main file's TR reserves. This way I can reteach them whenever it becomes necessary, and it will potentially save me hours in what could take days to complete. And this challenge begins once I can access Pokemon Home. I will swap my starter for the Meltan I'll be doing this run with. The lowest level Meltan I could find was level 7, so thanks to Joe Joker from my Discord server for hooking me up with one. This challenge actually may be impossible for a change, so comment down below before watching if you think I can do this, and if not, where do you think we'll get stuck? Going into this, I think I could actually lose to Kabu, and if not Kabu, it'll be B. But if we somehow get past those two, I think we'll be able to make it all the way to Leon. And then, only time will tell. Let's jump into this challenge and see if I can beat Pokemon Sword only using a single Meltan without any items in battle. Here we go! I start my journey as a young boy named Ratchet and choose a baby Grookey as my starter. This is to ensure neither Hop nor Leon have Rillaboom, as physical moves will be easier to deal with and Cinderace is super effective on Meltan, making this challenge as difficult as possible. Once I reach the Wedgehurst Pokemon Center, I swap the Grookey for a little Meltan named Clank. This challenge will likely be very long, so forgive me if I leave out smaller fights and tend to just get to what it took for each fight to succeed. That, and this is the third time I'm doing Sword and Shield on the channel. The first thing I do upon reaching the wild area is grab the leftovers. Without this item, we may as well just pack up and go home. Upon leaving Motostoke, I buy the TM for Protect. That coupled with the leftovers can heal up quite a bit in between turns. At this point, Hop and Bead are no match for Thunderbolt and Flash Cannon. What we're really here for is Milo. It's gonna take 3 Flash Cannons to take Gossifleur out, but the leftovers heals back a good amount Magical Leaf and round we're doing. The real star of the show here is his Eldegoss. Milo's big weakness is his use of the move Max Overgrowth. This heals both Pokemon on the field every turn, and that coupled with the leftovers means he doesn't do much to Clank over time. But Toxic does it quite a bit to him over time. After using Toxic, I have Clank Dynamax and use Max Guard, healing up a bit more with the terrain and leftovers, and leaving Eldegoss with only 1 turn of Dynamax remaining. Eldegoss uses Max Strike, and Clank uses Max Steel Spike, getting a defense boost as Eldegoss shrinks back down. I have Clank Max Guard on the final turn of Dynamax, granting us enough health to live long enough for the poison to take Eldegoss's life. There's the Grass Badge! 1 down, 7 to go. Hop is still no match for moves like Thunderbolt, so let's be real. It's time for Nessa. With 30 being our limit, I try Nessa every level up until 27, and we're just taking too much damage to sustain the fight. But upon fighting trainers I skipped and getting Clank leveled up a bit, I found an Absorb Bulb. This item raises our special attack if we're hit by a Water-type move, which her Goldeen uses at the start of every attempt. This allows us to one-shot Goldeen with Thunderbolt and easily one-shot Arrokuda with a Max Lightning. Thunderbolt would have been enough for Arrokuda, but I wanted the Electric Terrain up for her ace, her Dynamaxing Dreadnought. With the Absorb Bulb being used up and the Electric Terrain in play, Max Lightning's enough to one-shot Dreadnought with a critical hit. Not sure if it mattered, but I'll take it. There's the Water Badge. 2 down and 6 to go, with the next being Kabu. Bead goes the same as Hop has been, but Marnie is a different story. She has 2 fighting types, and even with Iron Defense, her Krogunk packs a punch. At level 30, Clank just can't make it through the fight at this stage. But since Kabu's coming up, I figure I might as well get leveled up sooner rather than later. I get Clank up to level 35 and replace Iron Defense with Acid Armor, just because it's cooler. And now we're able to sustain through Marnie's team thanks to Toxic for her Morpeko. It's time for Kabu, the Fire-type gym leader. He leads with his Ninetales, and this Pokemon uses special moves, meaning I can't use Acid Armor to set up. For that, I have to get past Ninetales. I get to level 40, the max before Clank will stop obeying us, and try this fight for almost 3 straight hours. There's one glimmer of hope. It says Ninetales will almost always use Will-O-Wisp against Clank, and this move has a 15% chance to miss. If it hits, we have to reset, as it will nullify our leftovers. If it misses the first turn, I can have Clank use Thunder Wave, allowing us to outspeed it and use Substitute the following turn. By being behind a Substitute, Will-O-Wisp will no longer work. If Ninetales uses Ember, it'll break the Substitute no matter what, and we have to put up another one, taking more of our health away. But I felt confident in being able to beat Kabu at this point, if we could get past Ninetales. 3 hours later, I managed to defeat Ninetales, with half health remaining, not being burned, and at +2 defense, as his Arcanine comes in. I take this opportunity to paralyze it, as it uses Flame Wheel, which doesn't even break my Substitute because of the Acid Armor. Now that Arcanine's paralyzed, I go for another Acid Armor. This brings us to +4 defense, and as Arcanine stays fully paralyzed, I go for Acid Armor one final time, getting to the max defense, and almost back to 2/3 health with the leftovers. And for some reason, Arcanine decides to use Agility here, allowing it to outspeed me the following turn and break my Substitute. As long as we don't get critical hit, this battle should be ours, as his final 2 Pokemon don't have any special moves. Thunderbolt does less than half to Arcanine, and the second brings it to red, as it burns Clank with Will-O-Wisp. I decide now is the time to Dynamax, and finish it off with a Max Lightning, leaving his final Pokemon, and his ace, his Gigantamax Centiskorch. Since we're burned now, our recovery is dead. The electric terrain needs to help Max Lightning take this Centiskorch out in 2 shots, or we're done for. Who knows how long it'll be before I get this chance again. Surprisingly, we're faster than it, and Max Lightning does only 1/3 of its health. And it blasts Clank with a G-Max Centiferno, dealing extra damage every turn as a Fire Spin. Our final Max Lightning takes it to only 1/3 remaining, as Clank shrinks back down. With 30 hit points remaining, Clank needs to take one more hit, which I don't think's possible not being Dynamaxed. But Clank paralyzes it with Thunderbolt! And it stays paralyzed! Finishing it off the next turn! We just beat Kabu with only a Meltan! It took a long time, but we did it! There's the Fire Badge! 3 down, 5 to go! Hop still fails to be a challenge for now, but the gym trainers of B's gym sure made me regret doing this on Sword. The final trainer has a Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan. Clank managed to do it, but it took almost 15 minutes of Protect, Acid Armor, and Substitute stalling, which did not make me feel confident for B. What I didn't realize until later is I had to delete Toxic for these moves, and you can't relearn transfer-only moves. So Toxic is now lost forever. I know there's probably no point in even trying without being at the max of 50, so I go do some more raids and fight almost every trainer I had skipped, getting Clank to level 50. I thought the Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan gym trainer took a long time. Ha ha ha. B has 4 Pokemon, not 2. She leads with Hitmontop, which luckily used Counter on the first turn. Not only does this do nothing, but it goes second as well, allowing us to get a free Acid Armor, and the same can be said for Revenge, as it also goes second. The goal is to get to +6 defense with Acid Armor against Hitmontop, and Protect in between turns to keep as healthy as possible. But don't forget the almighty Substitute. After a lucky Thunderbolt paralysis on Hitmontop, Clank protects and sets up a Substitute, as Hitmontop stays fully paralyzed. Clank only has 15 Thunderbolt uses to get through this fight, and it took 3 to get rid of Hitmontop. But thankfully it stayed paralyzed the whole time, allowing our Substitute to remain as strong as possible. Her Pangoro comes in, who also requires 3 Thunderbolt uses, and it breaks Clank's Substitute after only 2 Circle Throws. I finish Pangoro off before using Substitute again, as I know her Sirfetch'd is coming in next. It loves the move Detect, as much as I love Substitute. So I decide we both get to use our favorite moves. This way nobody gets hurt. With only 9 Thunderbolt uses remaining, they are all very precious. I can't afford to use one against a detecting Sirfetch'd, and even at +6 defense, its Revenge breaks my Substitute. I wait until it uses Detect, so I know it won't use it the following turn. I then take this time to pounce and Dynamax Clank, taking Sirfetch'd out with 2 Max Lightnings, and summoning the Electric Terrain. As her ace, her Gigantamax Machamp comes into play. See, we're in a really great spot. We're at +6 defense, but Gigantamax Machamp's signature move is G-Max Chi Strike. This essentially gives it the focus energy effect every time it uses it, raising the critical hit rate of the user. If we get hit with a critical hit, Clank dies, and that's it. Our final max lightning doesn't do a whole lot, and Clank shrinks back down to size. Clank's at half health, and her Machamp has 2 turns left to Gigantamax. So things are looking really grim. I set up a substitute in this time. I figure it will break it, but Clank will at least take less damage from the substitute than from Machamp. But to my surprise, the substitute stays intact. And we stall out the remainder of its Gigantamax, but it's pumped itself up ×3. With it no longer Gigantamaxed, I have Clank protect fully and get some health back. But it doesn't matter. 1 critical hit and we're done. But for some unreal reason, Machamp is using Scary Face. I substitute one last time to test the waters, and he uses Scary Face again. What are you doing, B? Machamp is broken. She keeps using Scary Face. I am literally rolling in my chair. Thunderbolt takes it out after 2 more shots. And there's the fighting badge. B's done. Scary Face. I can't believe my eyes. 4 down, 4 to go. Bead is still no threat for Clank, and we reach the town of Balloonlia. This was a massive milestone for Clank, as it's the home of 2 items I figured would be essential in our success. The Eviolite and TM21 for rest. But what I didn't know until I began writing this script is the Eviolite doesn't work on Meltan. So every strategy I tried with the Eviolite, I essentially did with no item. Time for the next gym leader, the fairy user Opal. For once, we have a gym Meltan is actually good at. Being a steel type, we crush fairies, and Opal was no different. With Substitute and her questions raising our stats, we flash cannon our way through, with the move Rest at our disposal, and holding the Eviolite. Because I thought it worked. Hey, it got us the fairy badge. 5 down, 3 to go. The days of Hop being a pushover for Clank are no more. This fight took me way longer than I'd like to think about. I eventually ended up getting Clank from level 52 to 58. This was to deal enough damage to take out the major threats on his team before they could take Clank out. I had to get to +6 defense against Trevenant, and with it knowing Confuse Ray, I'm sure you can imagine how this went. But we eventually managed to do it, making our way to Sirchester and the next gym leader, Gordy. I set up a substitute against this Barbaracle while it uses Shell Smash. While that looks redundant, it actually has Clank only taking 18 damage after the leftovers versus being one-shot by whatever Barbaracle used, since we couldn't one-shot it with Thunderbolt before it smashed its shell. His Shuckle then comes in, and I take that opportunity to set up Acid Armor 3 times and get behind a substitute for his Stunjourner. His Stunjourner uses Wonder Room, making Flash Cannon take several hits to get rid of it. But we're still behind our substitute for his ace, his Gigantamax Colossal, and we're at full health too. He Gigantamaxes and Clank doesn't, as he's still behind a substitute. Clank does a small amount of damage with Thunderbolt as it breaks our substitute with Max Flare and summons the sun. This would be horrible, but here's a really awesome strategy I came up with. By using Substitute again, I used the strategy of opting for the small substitute damage over the massive damage it would do to Clank with Max Flare. The sun boosts the power of its fire moves, which Clank is already weak to. But by Dynamaxing on his final turn of Gigantamax, we can max guard, having Colossal shrink down to size. But how exactly does that stop it from using fire type attacks? Because the only fire move his Colossal has is Heat Crash, which won't work against a Dynamaxed Pokemon, meaning he has to use weaker moves, while we finish him off with Max Steel Spike. There's the Rock Badge! 6 down, only 2 more to go. With Rahan rapidly approaching, I figure I might as well go farm a bunch of candies now to make Hop, Marnie, and Piers a little bit easier. I get Clank up to level 63 for Hop, which allows the usual strategy to take him down without too much trouble, and the same can be said for Marnie. It's time for her brother, and the 7th gym leader, Piers. The first attempt goes incredibly well, making it to his final Pokemon with relative ease, only losing because of Scrafty's sand attack causing us to miss. So I figure with just a little bit of luck, Piers shouldn't take too long. Was I wrong? I then proceed to have some of the worst luck I've ever had in a Pokemon game for the next few hours. I cave and go get leveled up to 70 just to get this over with. Once I do, the stars align and everything goes just fine. I managed to get past his Scrafty without it even using Sand Attack, for the first time in hours, mind you, and substitute our way to the Dark Badge. 7 down, only 1 more to go. With that one last badge being from Rahan. Oh boy, here we go again. I got Clank leveled up to level 83, 7 levels below the limit for Rahan. And with the power of Clank and Clonk by our side, I feel nothing can stop us. Flygon and Gigalith both attacked Clank on the first turn, even lowering his defense with Crunch, meaning after the second turn, Clank was at +3 defense. Gigalith then used Body Press, knocking Clonk out, and Clank protected himself while getting some health back. One more Acid Armor puts Clank at +5 defense, and I now have Clank Dynamax. Max Steel Spike takes Flygon out in one shot, and Gigalith is doing nothing at this point with our defense so high. Sandaconda comes in, and we luckily are able to take it out with 1 Max Steel Spike as well. If not, it would have blasted Clank with the special Earth Power, which most definitely would have hurt a lot. His ace, his Gigantamax Duraludon, comes in. It uses Max Knuckle on Clank, which doesn't do too much, and I opt for taking out Gigalith this time. I didn't think I'd one-shot Duraludon with a resisted Max Steel Spike, so I went for the 1 versus 1 by getting rid of Gigalith. I then stall out the Gigantamax with Protect, minimizing the damage it does, and setting up a substitute as Duraludon shrinks back down. And now that Duraludon's not Gigantamaxed anymore, 2 more Flash Cannons is all it took. We just beat Rahan on the first try? What? There's the Dragon Badge! All 8 badges of Galar are now ours? It's time to head to Winden. I make my way through Route 10 and notice an unbelievable amount of Duraludon. These are supposed to be 1% encounters, and they're everywhere. So naturally, I do what anybody would do. I posted on Twitter. Go follow me. And fellow challenge Poketuber Absolblog's Pokemon pointed out it's likely because I might have a Pokemon with Magnet Pull up front. I never would have thought about that. That's actually really cool. I do have a Pokemon with Magnet Pull and Clank. So basically, you kind of have to go follow me on Twitter at this point and check out Absolblog's Pokemon too while you're at it. He's a great guy and makes really awesome videos, and I know you guys will enjoy them. Both semi-final matches with Marnie and Hop go incredibly well, and now it's time for Oleana. She leads with a Frostlass who uses Will-O-Wisp on the first turn. Kabu flashbacks intense. We can take it out with a single Flash Cannon, however, but the burn nullifies our leftovers. I have Clank Dynamax against her Salazzle to take the Incinerate better, and Clank takes Salazzle, Milotic, and Serena down in one shot. With her ace, her Gigantamax Garbodor coming in. It uses Max Quake, which is not only super effective, but also raises its special defense, making it much harder to take out. I blast it with a Thunderbolt immediately, while the electric terrain is still up, and we paralyze it. It stays paralyzed as Clank uses Acid Armor, and Clank's Flash Cannon brings it down really low. Clank barely survives one final Max Quake, and Garbodor shrinks back down. And one more Flash Cannon takes the trash out. Now it's time for the finals. Now that Bede's a Fairy-type user, he's easier than he's ever been. And like I've said many times, he's never been an issue for Clank. And Nessa is just as easy the second time around. But we have to fight B again. I feared I'd have a lot of trouble with this fight, but luckily her lead, Hawlucha, uses High Jump Kick. This can be easily manipulated with Protect. Clank protects himself, and Hawlucha crashes. We get a double Protect off, and Hawlucha knocks itself out. And the rest of the fight goes better than the first. The last match of the finals is with Rahan. In a single battle, I figured he'd be better. But this time, instead of the Sandstorm that doesn't affect Clank, he leads with the Sun and a Torkoal. Fearing it could just end me in one shot, I substitute, and it goes for Yawn, which doesn't work on a substitute. I then Protect in between turns to get our health back with the leftovers and Acid Armor before the Torkoal breaks the substitute. In between turns, I'm having Clank Protect. This runs the drought out, and once I get set up with a substitute again, it uses Yawn once again. Nice! Now I take the time to Flash Cannon, It's gonna take 3 hits, but by protecting and substituting in all the right times, we get through Torkoal without getting hit by Lava Plume once. That's not his only fire type though. He has a Turtonator, but thankfully it only wants to use Shell Trap, which allows us to get up a substitute and take it out, as special moves don't activate the Shell Trap. Clank Dynamaxes against Flygon and takes it out with a Max Steel Spike, and 2 more of them take Goodra out. Only his Gigantamax Duraludon is left. And we're at +6 defense. We actually are gonna get past Ryan on the first try again. But we only have 1 Flash Cannon remaining. As not to waste it, I stall the Gigantamax with Substitute and Protect, but our final Flash Cannon just wasn't enough. Now I have to redo all of that, and who knows if it would go that well again. Or do I? None of Duraludon's moves are doing very much damage to Clank, and with the leftovers, it shrugs almost all of it off. So with our final substitutes and protects, I managed to completely run out of power points with Clank, and we're still at half health. But Duraludon hasn't run out of power points yet. If Clank struggles, he'll just knock himself out. At this point, the fight has been going on for 30 straight minutes, and I'm not about to do all this again. So then I think back, how do we waste our partner's turn in a double battle? Clank isn't affected by any status right now, so I can use a full heal from my bag to stall turns. This isn't using any items, as no full heals are being consumed, and as long as Duraludon doesn't get a critical hit, we're golden. And luckily for us, it doesn't. Duraludon struggles itself to death, and we are now done with the finals. Rose's team being entirely physical makes it easy for Clank, and Eternatus uses Cross Poison multiple times, which just won't work. After catching Eternatus, it's time for the final battle, with only a single Meltan, Champion Leon. Here is where everything went downhill. As I expected, I spent 7 straight hours on Leon, and here were my results. Obviously, I had to grind Clank up to the max level of 100, but even then, there was no way I would be able to defeat Leon. His Aegislash uses special moves, which always break Clank's substitute, and Sacred Sword bypasses the defense boosts Acid Armor gives, and even Max Lightning won't one-shot his Aegislash. At level 100, perfectly EV trained in special attack, we can't even get past his Aegislash. And if I did get past his Aegislash, he sends out Cinderace next, who destroys Clank with a Pyro Ball. And if I got past Cinderace, Haxorus has Earthquake, Seismitoad has Earthquake, Dragapult has Flamethrower, and Charizard is, well, a Charizard. There is literally no way, in any shape or form, Clank can beat Leon in the state he's at right now. And this is where the challenge had officially come to an end. Or so I thought. There was no way in hell I'd just go, yep, it's over, thanks for watching. I'm the kind of person who wants to know for certain if something's impossible. That's why you guys are here, and I'm not gonna give up until I have a definite answer. What I said about Clank being unable to defeat Leon in its current state is correct. He can't. His IVs are insanely low, and he doesn't have the ability to outspeed Charizard. And if he can't outspeed Charizard and take it out in one shot, it is without a doubt impossible. In every realm, Gigantamax Charizard will one-shot Clank no matter what. From what I was able to tell from fighting Leon for over 7 hours, is all of his Pokemon have an IV of 31, and beneficial natures in some form. For this to be possible, I had to trade Clank to my main file and hyper-train his stats and give him a mint. While this is a gray area, I wanted to see if it were possible with a perfect Meltan, which I technically could have started with. Charizard at level 65 with a speed IV of 31 would have a speed stat of 155. So I EV trained our newly perfect Clank to have a speed stat of 156 and a modest nature with max special attack. It still was no small feat even getting to Charizard. Here's what had to happen. I had to lead with Thunder Wave, and Aegislash needed to use King's Shield. Thunder Wave will work on a Pokemon using King's Shield, and then Aegislash would need to fail to attack almost every single time, while I set up Acid Armor twice and then proceeded to take it out. Cinderace would then come in, and it would need to miss with Pyro Ball at least one time, as I two-shot it with Thunderbolt. If Pyro Ball burned, I'd have to reset. Haxorus was a one-shot with Flash Cannon, and Seismitoad took one Flash Cannon and one Max Steel Spike. Then Dragapult would go down to one Max Steel Spike. But I had to have enough health remaining to take a Flamethrower, meaning if Aegislash or Cinderace had hit Clank too many times, I'd have to reset at the start. 5 hours. 5 hours for all of that to happen and reach Charizard with a speed stat of 156. It wasn't even enough. His Charizard still outsped Clank. This confirmed it. It either had a plus speed nature or a bunch of speed EVs, which I was going to guess it had a plus speed nature and a speed stat of 170. So I used a Mint, changing Clank's nature once again, from modest to timid. Clank now has max special attack and a speed stat of 171. Only an hour later, we made it to Charizard once again, and this time, Clank outsped. But the Max Lightning wasn't enough. It was a damage range. The utter defeat. I had proved it was possible to not only beat Pokemon Sword and Shield with only a Meltan and no items, but I proved it was possible to do it in the hardest conditions possible. Had I picked Scorbunny, Leon wouldn't have Cinderace, making this a lot easier. But I wanted to do it in the most brutal way possible, and I think I proved that. So surely this was enough, right? Not for me, it wasn't. 1 hour later, we made it to Seismitoad at full hit points. Aegislash and Cinderace missed every single opportunity to attack, which had only happened once before. But Seismitoad crit me, but not this time. I take this chance to wait to Dynamax against Seismitoad and do it against Dragapult. This way, I can confirm the kill on Charizard. I start by using Max Lightning on Dragapult and finish it with a Max Steel Spike. To be able to do this, Clank needs to take not one, but 2 flamethrowers from Dragapult, which he does just perfectly due to Aegislash and Cinderace sparing him. With the necessary speed investment and the electric terrain removing any chance of a damage range getting in our way again, Clank blasts Leon's Charizard with one final Max Lightning, ending the unbeatable champion streak with only a single Meltan and no items in battle. And I can say, with a massive sigh of relief, we have won this game! Wow, that challenge was pure brutality. Going into this, I figured it would be impossible to even beat Kabu with the rules I had in place and not being able to overlevel to get past him. But we managed to get past Kabu, B, and every other challenge that stood in our way, all the way until we got to Leon. It's up to your own interpretation if we were successful in beating this challenge or not. I personally think we did. Yes, I did have to trade Clank over to be hyper-trained, but the question was, could I beat Pokemon Sword only using a single Meltan? And we did. Without hyper-training Meltan and going through all kinds of different EV spreads, this just wouldn't have been possible. So to be clear, yeah, you can beat Pokemon Sword in the harshest conditions possible with only a Meltan, but only a perfect or near perfect Meltan. Because as far as I'm aware, it is possible to find a perfect Meltan on Pokemon Go around level 7 to start your adventure with. I just didn't have the means to do so. Meaning, if I did, I wouldn't have had to hyper train at all. And even if I did pick a weaker starter in Scorbunny, allowing for Leon to not have Cinderace, I still think I would have had to have a near-perfect Meltan. The whole point of having a near-perfect Meltan was to get past his Charizard. And if we couldn't get past Charizard, we weren't going to win this game. Anyways, guys, let me know down below what you thought of this video and what you would have done differently or what you just thought about it in general. I just want to hear from you guys. I love talking with you guys, and no comment goes unnoticed on this channel. And of course, guys, it always means the world to me if you click the like button if you did enjoy this video at any point, and if you want to see more challenge videos like this in the future, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell as well. The main way to get in touch with me outside of YouTube would be my Twitter. Don't forget to go follow that if you use Twitter as well, and if you want to join my Discord server for Pokemon challenges and Nuzlockes and stuff like that, a link to both of those can be found in the description down below. I do a challenge video just like this every single week on Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and sometimes other days too. If you want to see more Pokemon challenge videos just like this one, I did a Stonejourner run on Pokemon Sword and a Morpeko run on Pokemon Shield. You can find both of those and all of the other challenges I've done in a playlist over here. Or maybe even consider checking out this Wedlock series I did. It's a Pokemon challenge, but in a Let's Play format. I think you'll really like this Emerald series of mine over here. Anyways, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and of course, I hope to see you guys in the next one. Until then, I'll see you guys then. Thank you so much for watching.